Thank you for joining the second webinar in the fitness webinar series. My name is Mostan Khaikpour. I am a PhD student at UCLM and doctoral candidate 6 in the fitness project. It is a pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Professor Natalia Aguacil. She is a full professor of electrical engineering at the University of Castilla-La Mancha and a senior member of IEEE. Professor Aguacil received her degree in computer science from the University of Malaga in 1995 and her PhD in power system operation and planning from University of Castilla-La Mancha in 2001. Her research focuses on power system operation, planning, economics, as well as optimization. We are very pleased to have her with us today. Without further ado, I hand it over to Professor Aguacil to present her talk titled Privacy Preserving Distributed Optimization for Power System via ADMM. Professor Aguacil, thank you very much for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. So let's start with the talk. I have structured the talk in this with this main subject. So first, I will motivate the problem. Then there are many problems in which the technique, the ADMM, that is alternative direction method of multipliers, can be applied. And well, I have selected the optimal power flow, but because this is a very common application in power systems. And before going and to explain the technique, I will give briefly some optimization background necessary to understand the principles of this technique. Finally, I will present shortly, because I don't have much time, an application that is the result of a research paper. It has been published last year. So, first of all, I will focus the problem. In power system, we may face problems in which optimization problems in which several agents are involved in the optimization, and each agent is responsible or in charge of a subsystem of the whole power system. Apart from that, these agents want to keep the privacy of their assets. The data privacy should be kept. So they don't want to share much information with other agents. But to get an optimal solution, this exchange should be take place. So we also assume that apart from agents, of these agents, there is a central coordinator that is in charge of exchanging this minimal information between agents. So this is the framework. There are many power systems applications in which these assumptions are necessary. One problem that has been solved many years ago was the multi-area optimal power flow. This problem is related to several regions or several countries that different operators or different planners want to solve the optimal power flow problem. And the only information that is exchanged between these areas is related to the borders, the network, or the border buses, or the interface buses. The application we are dealing at the end of this talk is the coordinated expansion planning. Rather than areas, the information is exchanged between transmission and distribution systems. There are many other applications, not only on optimal power flow, but we are focusing today on this kind of application. So let me see, because now it's let me see. Okay, so I will start with the formulation of the optimal power flow. A general, before starting, I will give some notation. So for the technique we are presenting today to work or to guarantee the convergence to an optimal solution, we need to deal with convex optimization problems. So here we can consider that linear programming problems or quadratic problems are both convex. These two are both convex, but for example, nonlinear programming convex could be either convex or non-convex, depending on the constraints and on the objective function, how is the formulation. But whenever we add some decisions, some binary variables to these kind of problems, mixed integer linear programming or quadratic programming problems, these are non-convex formulation, but there exists very powerful commercial software that can attain the optimal solution of these optimization problems in a finite number of steps. So this is not a very big problem to have binary or integer variables to model decisions, but we should take into account that when these decisions or when these variables are fixed, then the problems become convex. This is the important part. The end in red, I have put the most difficult problems to be solved. There are no commercial solver to guarantee the convergence to an optimal solution is the mixed integer nonlinear programming problem. So, those in which when the binary or integer variables are fixed becomes non-convex. So there are no state-of-the-art techniques to guarantee the convergence to an optimal solution. Being said that, we now, I present here a typical formulation or typical structure of the optimal power flow. So here we are minimizing, for example, the cost of the generation. This is a conventional objective function for the problem, for this optimization problem, but there are many others. Can be maximizing the social welfare or any other objective function, so it's not always minimizing, subject to a set of constraints. So here we say the power flow equations or the limits on line power flows, this is the source of non-convexities because here we have the product of continuous variables, so this is non-linear. And we also may have these limits on generation, here you see, or in active power or reactive power. We may have also limits in the voltage magnitudes, as you see here, or some limits on the difference of voltage angles, as seen here. Oh, and we can have many other limits. But the thing is that there are non-convexities. So depending on how the formulation you adopt for the optimal power flow problem, it may be convex. Well, it's non-convex. The nature of this problem is non-convex, but you can adapt some relaxations or approximation to make these problems convex. This is just a picture I took from this reference here. We represent a power system with 3 nodes. And here you can see for node 2, for this node, how is the feasibility region. And you can see that it's really non-convex. So this is the nature. The nature of this problem is non-convex. For convexifying this problem, we may adopt, for example, in blue, some approximations that are used for transmission networks, such as the DC, the direct current optimal power flow problem, this here. And this problem is mainly convex. Once, if you model the problem with using integer or binary variables, becomes convex once they are fixed or relaxed. And we also have this formulation, decoupled formulation, in which you may take advantage of the relation in these transmission networks between the active power and the voltage angles. So you solve typically a linear programming problem for this couple of variables. For the reactive power, reactive generation, or the reactive magnitude and the voltage magnitudes, you solve typically a nonlinear programming problem. So this is separated and is somehow are approximations that are used in the literature. You also may find in this in green, these are approximations or relaxations that convexify the optimal power flow problem, but they are mostly used for, or they work well for distribution networks. So you may find these ways in the literature to obtain a convex formulation for the very difficult, in terms of algorithmic and convergence, of the original, that is AC optimal power flow problem. This is non-linear, non-convex, and it's difficult to find the solution. So let's move now to some background. We need to understand the alternating direction method of multipliers I'm presenting today. So first of all, we are assuming a convex optimization problem. So here we are minimizing this objective function, general objective function. The primal variables are x, and is subject to either equality constraints and non-equality inequalities. So the duality theory says that related to each constraint, we have a Lagrangian multiplier. So here you see related to the equality constraints, we have lambda. This is a Lagrangian multiplier. Or a dual variable, dual variable, and as inequality constraints, you have these mu, the Greek letters are the dual variables. So corresponding to each primal problem, this is the primal problem, we have a dual problem, and in the optimal solution, the objective functions of both problems are exactly the same. So another definition is the definition of the Lagrangian function you have here with this L. Depends on both the primal variables x and the dual variables lambda and mu. So the way we establish this or define this function is, first, you consider the objective function of the primal problem, and then somehow you relax the constraints, adding to the objective function multiplied by the corresponding multipliers, lambda and mu. That's the way we build the Lagrangian function. So related to this primal problem, we have a dual function that depends on the Lagrangian multipliers. So we call this dual function gamma. And the definition is the infimum in x of the Lagrangian function. And instead of solving some techniques based on Lagrangian methodologies, instead of solving the primal problem, they may solve the dual problem that maximize the dual function. So this is how you define it, and obtain the optimal variable, the optimal values of these lambda and mu variables. There is also another term that is called relaxed primal problem, that is the minimization of the Lagrangian for in x, the primal variables, and for the optimal values, hopefully, if we have it, for lambda and mu. But we are not gonna get these optimal values easily. We are gonna obtain them, as we will see, iteratively. So this is the definition. So some observation is that in general, although the primal problem is convex, the dual function is typically concave and in general non-differentiable. So it is very difficult in general to obtain the formulation of this dual problem. But we can take advantage if or Lagrangian-based decomposition methods such as ADMM are attractive if the dual function can be easily evaluated by solving kind of relaxed primal problem. So the main idea is to get the optimal solution of the primal variables by solving iteratively the dual problem. Evaluating is better to say, evaluating the dual problem. So similarly, for this problem, there are other functions, other definitions, such as the augmented Lagrangian function. So you can see here that we have a new parameter that is rho. Rho is a very sufficiently large positive constant that penalize also the constraints quadratically. So it's a way of convexifying, and it is shown in the literature that this helps when the problem is solved iteratively, it helps with the optimization. So here, well, we can exactly do the same, define the dual function, but now we have this dependence on this constant rho, and we will recover, or these methodologies based on the augmented Lagrangian function, recover the optimal solution of the primal variables x by evaluating the dual function in this way. Okay, instead of the Lagrangian, we use this augmented Lagrangian function. It's similar, but you are adding these quadratic terms in the Lagrangian, the typical or the standard Lagrangian function. So this is the background that I have tried to summarize briefly. And now I'm going through this ADMM, the alternating direction method of multipliers. So we are assuming first a centralized formulation. This centralized formulation, we will see that may present some scalability issues because the problem is not decomposed, it's solved by a central coordinator in one shot in a monolithic way. But also the main concern here today is the privacy of each agent. So we assume that we can have two subsystems, A and B, and this problem is solved by the central coordinator. So you can see here that I have split the objective function in two. One objective function related to the agent or subsystem A, and the other one related to subsystem B. Subject to a set of constraints. And here you can see that we have two variables that with a superindex com that is represented common or shared variables, and these two variables are a subvector of either xa or xb. So it's not the whole set, or not the whole vector of variables, but just a subset. And this is the information is going to be exchanged between the agents AB and the central coordinator in the ADMM approach. So first, we can see here that we have an equality constraint in which both subsystems A and B are related. And also we have local constraints, GA and GB, that can be split into systems. So we here call or identify the complicating constraint, the one that relates both systems. Here I present the example or this optimization problem with just two blocks, but it can be generalized, as we will see later, for any number of blocks. So now we can recall or build the Lagrangian function for this problem. And we have here the objective function for A and B. Here we are relaxing through the Lagrangian multiplier lambda associated to the complicating constraint, and here the two inequality constraints are relaxed. So if we solve this problem in a centralized way, the optimal solution must meet the Karush-Tucker conditions. That is, first, the stationary condition for XA variables is here. So the gradient of respect to this variable should be, of the Lagrangian function, sorry, should be equal to 0. The same is the condition for XB, the stationary condition imposes that the gradient with respect to xb of the Lagrangian functions should be equal to 0. Also, these Karush-Tucker conditions imposes the primal feasibility in which the whole constraints in the main problem are satisfied. So you can see here, these are the primal constraints. Also, because of the dual theory, the Lagrangian multipliers associated to a less than or equal constraints such as G, A, and GB should be larger than or equal to 0 in the optimal solution. And finally, the complementary slackness condition, what it says is that either if the equality constraints are met, the inequality constraint DGA and DGB are binding, so they are met with an equality, the Lagrangian multipliers should be different from 0. If are not binding, the Lagrangian multiplier should be 0. Well, this is very summarized because there are some degenerated cases in which this is not exactly what happens in this problem. So these are the optimality conditions the centralized formulation should meet. But we don't want to solve this centralized version. We want that agent E solve the subproblem related to this subsystem A. So here we may find, or we may think to represent the subproblem for A like this, and similarly the subproblem for agent B. The problem is we are ignoring in these two subproblems the linking constraint, the complicated constraint that related both problems through these common variables. So this won't work because if we solve it like that, we may find an infeasible solution for the original problem, the centralized problem, or even a suboptimal solution. So the idea is to take into account this complicating constraint. Sorry. So first, we are going to change the augmented Lagrangian function. And here you can see that for the original problem, we are considering both objective functions. We are relaxing here the complicating constraint, and we are using this quadratic term that convexify the Lagrangian. But we are not considering here, this is why I call it partially augmented Lagrangian function, we are not considering here the local constraint, Gxa and Gxb. So imagine we know the optimal values of the primal and the dual variables. We could split the Lagrangian, the augmented Lagrangian function, so this function can be split in two, for agent B and for agent for agent A and for agent B. You can see these two functions. So for agent A, those variables that are not for this subsystem are considered known. And for agent B, the variables that are for other systems are considered known. But we don't know the optimal solution. What we are going to do with this technique is to find these optimal values iteratively. So the idea is to solve in parallel the subproblems in which the complicated constraints are considered through these augmented or partially augmenting Lagrangian functions. So we will obtain in iteration nu plus 1, we will obtain this value by solving an optimization problem in which we minimize the partially augmented Lagrangian function here for given values of the all the variables that are not corresponding to subsystem A, and we impose the local constraint. And reversely, or similarly, for obtaining the value of xb, we do the same. So we consider known xa variables, the common ones, and only the common ones. This is the important thing. We are exchanging a small data, a small piece of data, and also for the Lagrangian multipliers. And we also, this technique requires to evaluate the dual function by updating the dual variable. So the lambdas are updated in each iteration, considering the value in the previous one, and we add this term that is the subgradient of the complicating constraint for the values we obtain for XA, the share of the common XA, and the share of the common XB. So this is why you call alternating direction method of multipliers, because you are obtaining the value of one variable by fixing the other. And you do this in each iteration. The good thing here is that every agent can solve separately the subproblems. So this allows them to keep the privacy. So first we will update XA, and we solve this optimization problem that is just the variables are only the ones related to subsystem A, and you see here the variables B are fixed, the lambda are fixed, I mean the dual variables or the Lagrangian multipliers associated to the complicating constraint are fixed, and we penalize quadratically the complicating constraint, the Euclidean norm of this complicating constraint, subject to the local constraints of subsystem A. So here you can see that if we write the Karas-Kanthacker condition for this A subproblem, is similar to the Karas-Kanthacker condition of the centralized one, but we are adding this term that is due to the penalty term, the quadratic penalty term of this augmenting Lagrangian function. And this helps to the optimization. Similarly, we can do that for the XB update. So we solve the problem for agent B or subsystem B, and we can write also the Karas-Kanthacker condition. So another definitions that we need to check the convergence of these techniques is the primal residual. So the primal residual measures how well is the relax or the complicating constraint is met. So in each iteration, the central coordinator is checking this primal residual. But we have we also check, the central coordinator will also check the dual residual. So the dual residual, what measures, as you can see here, is how the variables are oscillating in each iteration. So we want these variables to oscillate the less as possible, but we also want that the complicated constraint is met as much as possible. So this is a compromise between both residuals, and the technique will finish when both residuals are low enough. And we also consider this dual update, that is the evaluation of the dual function. Well, this dual residual can be mathematically, it can be considered as how the stationary condition for a subproblem, here subproblem A, is met or not. So it's a way to see how far we are from the optimal solution also. So some remarks about this technique is related to Lagrangian-based methods, because we are using the augmenting Lagrangian function. This is a very old technique from the 70s. It is useful because we can solve the subproblems in parallel. So we may have several agents with several processors, and every agent is solving their own subproblem in several processors, and this is may help also to address the scalability issues in big or larger scale problems, because the the whole optimization problem is divided into many subproblems that are easier to solve than the centralized one. And the most important thing here is the privacy issue, because each agent is solving locally its own problem and exchange only little information. So just to see what each problem is solving, so agent A is solving this problem. In red, I put the fix and the input parameters of this subproblem, and we get the solution of the variables related to agent A, and these variables are sent to the central coordinator, and similarly for agent B. So the central coordinator receives these optimal values of XA and XB variables and update the iteration counter. So here, this is the updating. The lambda or the Lagrange multipliers are also updated using this gradient method. And this is not done in the very standard version of ADMM, but the rho, the very large constant, can also be updated as shown here. So it's a trade-off. This updating is a trade-off. So if the residual, the primal residual is very large, then we penalize more the constraints, the complicating constraint in the objective function. We increase this penalization. And if the dual residual is very large, what the technique is trying to do with this rho updating is to try to give more importance to the stability of the variables. So it's a trade-off. Rho this penalization or this large constant, positive constants, controls the trade-off between these two residuals. Then the central coordinator checks the convergence, and the convergence criteria is just the norm of the primal residual should be less or equal to this primal tolerance that is selected by the coordinator, and the dual residual is also, the norm of the dual residual is also should be less than or equal to this tolerance related to the dual residual. And then once, if there is no convergence, then the central coordinator should send all these values to agent A, or to agent B. So lambda and rho are common for both agents, but agent A receives the values of XB in the previous iteration, and agent B receives the values of XA in the previous iteration. So for the convergence of this technique, we should check that both the objective function of each system A and B is convex, and the local constraint GA and GB are defined convex sets. Well, this objective function or these problems should be have a set of properties to guarantee that they have a minimum, that the minimum, the optimizer exists. And there is also another condition. There is another condition that the Lagrangian function should have a saddle point. These saddle points represent that in the optimal, the Lagrange, or for the in the optimal of the Lagrangian function, you may find a lower bound or an upper bound solving to the or taking the optimal values either of the primal variables, either of the dual variables. So this is some requisite that this technique should meet. Well, here I have solved a very simple example. It's an economic dispatch, and it's a quadratic programming problem in which we have two agents. They are minimizing the generation costs that here are quadratic. So the generator A is cheaper than generator generator B. The complicating constraint here is the balance equation. So the sum of generation should be equal to the demand. Here is 400 megawatts. And these are the constraints on the generator. So these are the limits of the generation. And these are the local constraints. So the complicated constraint is the balance equation. This is not a very typical example because here all the variables are shared. So you can see here that there are no minimal exchange information. It's just to see how this example, with a very simple example, how it works. So it's easy to find the optimal solution of this example. The cheaper generator is giving more power, the more expensive generator is giving less. And you get the optimal solution also when you solve, for example, this in GAMP, the General Algebraic Modeling System Framework. You can easily get all the values, not only the primal, but also the dual variables in the optimal solution, and also the objective function. So here you can see the optimal value of the objective function. This is solved for 1 hour. You can see here how when we update dynamically the value of rho, we can get the optimal solution here in 31 iterations, and you can see how all the primal variables evolves in time. I'm sorry, in iterations. The Lagrangian multiplier associated to the complicating constraint, the primal residual, the dual residual, and the objective function. So this is for a dynamic update of rho, but if we keep rho fixed, this technique works, but it takes longer, okay? And well, we can solve here an economic dispatch, and here I have modified a little the formulation because now we have a minimum output, a generation output, and because of that we need to include these binary variables UA and UB. So this is a non-convex problem. In theory, ADMM does not guarantee the convergence to the optimal solution, but this problem is so simple that you get the same solution, exactly the same solution as if you are solving without these binary variables. But this should be clear. This technique does not guarantee the convergence to the optimal solution in general. Okay, so this is something important. Well, so final remarks is that this technique uses distributed optimization. So the optimization is distributed into many processors. You need a central coordinator, and is useful to solve very large problems. So it solves or it tackles the problem of scalability, but also the privacy issue. Some references. So this is the foundational reference of ADMM by Gabay in 76. This book, I put here this book because there are many decomposition techniques, Lagrangian-based decomposition techniques that are shown in this book, Decomposition Technique in Mathematical Programming and Engineering and Science Applications. And this is also a reference on ADMM by Boyd that applies this methodology to an optimization problem, not in power systems. But you can also find some references in power systems here. Now I'm going straight forward to this reference that is a research paper in which we have applied this technique to a practical problem. So let's go to this practical problem. We solve what is called the coordinated transmission and distribution generation expansion plan problem. So in this problem, the paper is recent. It was published in Sustainable Energy Grids and Networks in last year. This technique, well, sorry, it's not. The background and motivation of this problem is that the transmission and distribution systems in the past, they were planned the installation of assets were planned without any coordination. So if this is the transmission planner and these are distribution planners in green, they were not coordinated to attain an overall optimal solution of the whole systems. Sorry, but currently these both planners are talking to each other to coordinate and to obtain an optimal solution for the whole power system. So this is important to integrate the planning because of to get not from the mathematical point of view the optimal solution, but because there is a growing interdependence between distribution and transmission networks due to renewables installation, due to that the flows are reversed now. They can from distribution networks, the flow from them can go to the transmission network, not as before, because before the distribution networks were passive, but now because of this renewable generation, they are becoming active. So we need more efficient expansion plans considering this setting. So we have several challenges. The first one is the one I have talked to, the data confidentiality. So they are different agents, transmission planners and distribution planners. They want to keep their data assets in private, so they don't want to share that information. And we should also model the uncertainty coming from the growing demand, the renewable generation. So this adds more complexity to the problem addressed. So we need to solve a practical problem that is a very large scale problem, and with this scalability and confidentiality aspects. So we, in this work, we have considered a generation expansion planning model in which the new generation is modeled through continuous variables. We have used to model the uncertainty in demand on renewables. We have used stochastic programming. And what we want is to apply this ADMM decomposition approach to keep planners' privacy and to have a trade-off, a practical trade-off between the accuracy of the solution and the tractability of the problem. So we consider a static planning, expansion planning. We have discretized the uncertain demand into blocks. We have used, as I said before, from the transmission network, I have used a DC optimal power flow. This is a linear version of the non-linear optimal power flow. And for the distribution network, we have used a relaxation. It's called the linearized AC load optimal power flow. So the centralized problem is a linear programming problem in which we minimize the investment and operation cost for the transmission and the distribution systems, subject to, here in black, I have put the constraints related to the transmission system. In green, the constraints related to the distribution systems, and in red, the complicating constraint. The complicated constraint is the balance equation at the interface nodes, because the interface nodes are the one relating the transmission and the distribution system. This is an optimal power flow problem and is modeled as a linear programming. So this, if you solve it in a centralized way, all the privacy is not kept, because a central agent is solving this problem in a monolithic way. So we use the ADMM based approach, and we solve a sub-problem for the transmission planner, in which the complicated constraint, the balance at the interface nodes, are formulated considering that the variables related to the distribution systems, in green, remember, are given. So this will be the problem solved by the transmission planner, because we are adding these quadratic terms due to the augmenting Lagrangian function. We are facing here, the transmission planning is facing here a quadratic programming problem. Reversely, the subproblems we are assuming we have more than one distribution system, so we have several distribution systems. So remember, we can have a general approach in which instead of 2 agents, we have many. So this is the case. We have many distribution systems, and now is the reverse. We consider in green all the constraints and all the objective function variables related to the distribution system, the local one. And then in the objective function of this distribution system, we penalize the complicated constraint, the ones at the balance equation at the interface nodes. And all the variables related in black, the transmissions systems are given for these subproblems. So our complicated constraint here, well, it's a little bit, the formulation has many sub-indices, but because we are considering the node, the interface node, and all the uncertainties. So it's just a balance equation, an active power equation in this node. So this is the only thing to emphasize. And here, are the dual variables associated to this complicated constraint. So this is the structure of the optimization. I mean, the ADMM algorithm. We have the transmission planner solving its own problem, the transmission subproblem in black, and in green we have all the distribution systems that are solving their own subproblems, and the central coordinator in the middle is the one that is in charge of exchanging the information between all these agents. So this is the algorithm. I'm not going to give much details, and just I will show the case study briefly, in which we have a transmission system in black and 2 distribution systems here in green, and we have solved this problem using a monolithic approach, so it's not privacy preserving, and using the ADMM. And you can see that the optimal solution, the cost, operation and investment costs are the same, identical, although there are a slight difference between some of the partial costs. And what we identified in this research is that the selection of row was crucial. So depending on the selection of row, if row is too small, then more iterations, the algorithm requires more iteration. And if the row is large, the algorithm requires less iteration, but it gives a suboptimal solution. So there is a trade-off when selecting row. And also, well, we here see how the residual errors are computed along iterations. And we solve many different cases, not only this small case, but we solved up to 550 node power system. And what we found regarding the scalability is the larger is the system, the less time the subproblems takes. So it's scalable, the methodology. So the conclusion is that the ADMM is a good technique to preserve scalability. I mean, to preserve privacy and to decompose the problem into easier subproblems. The ongoing work we are doing is we are considering that the investment decisions are binary variables, and we are also considering other privacy preserving methods. So that's all by my side. Thank you very much for your attention. Yes. So
thank you, Professor, for your presentation. So If anybody has a question, please unmute him or herself and ask the question.
Yeah, sure. Majid, please.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
I have a question here. You said that ADMM doesn't guarantee the binary variables, but you use binary variables in transmission expansion, I think, or generation expansion here. Have this problem solved?
Yeah, this is our ongoing research, Majid. So the thing is, we cannot just apply ADMM. Well, we have done it. We have done it in another research that is under review. We have done it, and we have realized that we get suboptimal plans. So it's not an optimal plan, but you get a solution. So we are figuring out how to improve these suboptimal solutions. Because there is a question here. You solve the centralized version, but this is you can get the optimal solution because the centralized version is a mixed integer linear programming or quadratic programming for which there exist very efficient solvers. But this breaks the privacy, so this is not practical. Although you can solve it mathematically, it is okay, but in practice it's not okay. So when you apply this technique, the problem is that you the quadratic term makes this problem non-linear, and you have these binary variables is non-convex. So we are dealing with another techniques that allows us to improve the solution of ADMM and to iteratively, while preserving privacy, because this is important part, to improve the solution. We are right now with this research.
Thank you for your answering.
Thank you, Majid.
Welcome.
Any more questions? Yeah, please, Amin.
So do you have my voice?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, fine. Thank you for a nice presentation first. And my question is that what's the difference between a bi-level optimization and some decentralized like ADMM? Because I read in a paper, it was a transaction, it was new, that it said that bi-level programming for modeling interaction between two parties, for example, distribution and transmission, it has some privacy issues. So if we want to solve it in one shot, so we should transform to ADMM and solve in this level, so it can preserve the privacy. But my question is that I think in a real life, if we want to model some interaction between two parties as a bi-level, in real life it will be solved by iterative. So I think it's not really required to model in an ADMM, for example, as a decentralized. So my question is here.
Okay, so I mean, one thing is how you solve the problem. That it may be an approximation, and it may give you an approximation, but another thing is how you pose the problem. So in bi-level, you assume that a leader is in the upper level, and the leader knows the reaction of the followers, the lower level problems, no? So that's the privacy inherently. The privacy is broken because the leader knows the reaction. In practice, well, you can guess the reaction, or you can prepare to the best or to the worst reaction without any knowledge of the followers. You understand? Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that's right.
the way the bi-level programming problems are posed, they don't keep the privacy, because, for example, if you solve the lower level problems are convex, you may apply the Karush-Kantaker conditions. So you should know all the constraints of the lower level problems. You know a lot of these agents in the lower level. So you understand that maybe you may model the worst or the best reaction without knowing any constraint. This, okay, this you don't know anything about their assets. But if not, in theory, bi-level programming problems breaches the privacy of the lower level agents. But I don't remember exactly in which paper. I can look for you, but I remember that although the problem is posed as a bi-level, then it is solved in a decomposed way and privacy is kept. So this is something that, well, you are solving in a way that is heuristic, because it is not representing the reality. If you have model as a bi-level, the privacy is not kept. You get my point?
Yeah. So you mentioned that it's a fundamental of the modeling. So it's realizing that fundamental, if the structure and the behind the systems, we assume assumption.
Yeah, the assumption is that, as you see in the slides at the very beginning, is that the whole system can be divided into subsystems that each agent is responsible for each subsystem. But once you have a leader, it seems that the leader is the central coordinator, because it has, the central coordinator and the one that has knowledge about every constraint and every data in the bi-level programming problem. You understand?
Yes, obviously. Thank you, dear professor.
Thanks to you. Any other question?
Okay. Hello, Prof. Thank you very much for your presentation. I have a simple question. It relates to the convergence and the robustness, and I tend to ask, how sensitive is the convergence to communication latency or packet loss, especially when implemented in realistic infrastructure?
You know,
and also, let me combine that with does your ADMM or the general ADMM schemes retain convergence guarantees and asynchronous updates across agents? Or the comparison between synchronous and asynchronous communication between the agents.
Thank you so much. This was one of the questions of our reviewers. So very good question. So the thing here, we may have the synchronous ADMM, that is the one I show here. So the slowest agent, so the agent with the slowest processor is the one and that determines the computing time per iteration, because all the other agents should wait. Well, the central coordinator should wait for the slowest agent. So this is guarantees is more stable. For the convergence point of view, is more stable. But the other agents are idle while the slowest is finishing its own work. But there is another version that is the asynchronous ADMM. I haven't tried that technique, but I know that it exists. This asynchronous ADMM, doesn't wait for the last solution. All the agents are not waiting for everyone solving in parallel, but it takes the more updated information whenever it comes. So if it is solving with the most updated information in each iteration. You understand the difference, asynchronous or versus synchronous.
Yeah.
Synchronous, all of them wait for the slowest one. While if this is asynchronous, it doesn't matter which is the slowest. The information is coming in an asynchronous way, and you run your own optimization problem with the most updated iteration. Understand, no? And related to the latency and the communication, this is more computer related. So of course, it depends on the communication network, the speed of these techniques, because these agents are communicating using the communication network. So this is I mean, this is not, this is out of scope of our field, because I don't know how good are the processors of each agent. I don't know what is the latency of the communicating network. So this is, I mean, this is external, I can say, to this optimization methodology. You understand?
Yeah, but isn't that part of the ADMM being designed in an uncertainty where we should consider the uncertainty in that aspect?
Again, please, because I didn't understand the very first part.
I mean, the ADMM, then in that case, shouldn't it consider the uncertainty in that aspect? Like, if, let's say, the infrastructure that is being sold or that is being used is not able to relay the information in time, like that uncertainty in terms of the communication. Like,
okay,
all that is okay. I understand you're saying it's different, it's in a different field, but I mean, is there a way that maybe we can consider that in the design, in the ADMM?
Well, I think to make this practical, you have to consider that. You have to design some communication protocols and to the parallelization is not well, because you know how we did that. We didn't use parallel processing. In fact, we use a single processor, and the computing times we gave per iteration the time of the slowest agent. So this is not, we haven't done that in practice, but I agree that for implementing this in practice, you should ask some communication protocols, and this is not our specialty, we can say. So we can do that, but we need a step more related to computer science to adapt this technique to practice.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof.
Thanks to you. So we have more questions. Let me see. Do we? I cannot see. So very good questions.
So if there is not any more question, I think that we may wrap up the session.
Thank you so much, all of you. So if you have any other questions, you can email me. I'd be glad to answer all the questions or to help you in some related areas of this talk.
Thank you, Professor.
Thanks so much.